Tears of the Kingdom has been out for nearly 2 months now. In the midst of critics and casual fans alike singing its praises for the past 8 weeks, I too have found it worthy of exceptional praise. However, I've also remained cognizant of its various shortcomings, some substantial and others minuscule. I do not expect perfection from any game. Holding to such a high standard will bar you from fully enjoying any kind of media. But I do find it useful to determine what is missing from the games you deeply cherish. Today, I would like to do just that. Despite Tears of the Kingdom's consistently spectacular quality, there is one specific flaw that I find rather egregious. Zelda. Or more accurately, how Zelda is used as a character throughout the game. Narratively, I see very few issues, but mechanically, mechanically I see nothing. She isn't playable, and that's the problem. To those of you who have not yet played the game or experienced its main story, I urge you to do so before watching this video, as I will not be spending half of this video providing narrative context. Ceasing further delay, let's begin. So, before the game was released, fans had been very hopeful that Zelda would be featured as a playable character, likely due to the early promotional material implying that Link and Zelda would be adventuring together. Unfortunately, as we are all aware, such was not the case. You are accompanied by Zelda during the beginning of the game, but she functions as a little more than a detailed NPC, although I will admit that her sheer amount of possible dialogue was very fun to discover. Still, Tears of the Kingdom remains a solely individual experience, much to the suppressed dismay of fans such as myself. I say suppressed as I was far too invested in the game's brilliance for Zelda's lack of playability to overpower such excitement. Rather than allowing us to take control of her, Nintendo instead opted to send her back in time, presenting her with the opportunity to interact with ancient figures and learn more about Hyrule during ancient times. While I do find this narratively fulfilling, it having absolutely nothing to do with gameplay was somewhat disquieting to me. Nintendo decided to recycle the memory mechanic from Breath of the Wild, except instead of searching for Link's memories, you'd now be scavenging for Zelda's memories, in the form of tears. Whenever you'd obtain one, Link would discover more about what had happened to Zelda. The memory mechanic was genius in Breath of the Wild and remains genius in Tears of the Kingdom. But just because something worked well once does not mean we should become complacent. In fact, I think Tears of the Kingdom missed one of the coolest opportunities in the series. Consider this fact for a moment. The Tears of the Kingdom contain Zelda's memories, not the memories of some ethereal observer. Her memories. So, would it not make significantly more sense if we would begin to play as Zelda when discovering these memories? It'd be more logical than observing everything externally like a movie scene. Link being able to take control of Zelda from her perspective during the memories would A, provide fans with a playable Zelda, and B, allow the story to stay entirely identical to Nintendo's original plans. Concept 1. Roaming. In many of the memories, we see that Zelda visits a good few places. An ancient royal hall, Hyrule Field, the Great Plateau, the Forgotten Temple, and etc. I think it'd be wonderful to be able to free roam around these areas. Even in the absence of actual mechanics, just being able to run around in ancient Hyrule would be an immersive way to learn more about the world. Just imagine exploring these ancient halls as Zelda, speaking with guards, discovering hidden Easter eggs, and learning more about Hyrule's birth. Obviously, these encounters would have to occur within limited play areas, so as not to force the developers to make an entirely playable ancient Hyrule, which would feel somewhat dissonant. Being treated with small, linear gameplay segments within these roaming areas sounds super fun. To those of you who have played it before, Uncharted 4 employed a similar technique. Nathan Drake, the main protagonist, is a full-grown man, but the story will occasionally halt the active plot to flash back to Nate's childhood, allowing the player to take control of young Nate in bite-sized, linear segments. That is precisely what I would have loved for Tears of the Kingdom to have done with Zelda. Branching off of that point, I'd like to forward concept 2, improved recall. As we're all aware, Zelda gains access to her own secret stone in the game's intro. The stone lets her tap into her own power and use recall, similarly to Sonia. Now, instead of just giving Zelda Link's recall ability, I think it'd be really interesting to give Zelda a more detailed and powerful ability. A recall that would not only reverse an object's collision course, but could reverse an object's past entirely. Picture this. You're walking through the royal halls and you notice that some nearby floral arrangements have wilted. Eager to test your new ability, you use recall on the flowers and they're revived. Being able to repair parts of civilization that may have been destroyed, reversing nature's aging process, or even reversing an enemy's aging process, sending them so far back in time that they no longer exist, sounds engaging and fun, if not a little absurd. Concept 3 is somewhat minuscule, but I still find it exciting. QuickTime Events. essentially turning all intense cinematic events into interactable gameplay segments, while still retaining the cinematic benefits. They'd function very similarly to mashing A when using the Master Sword on Dragendorf at the end of the game. Whoever coined the term Dragendorf is a legend, by the way. I could see QuickTime events being used wonderfully in memories such as the Gerudo Assault, Sonya is Caught by Treachery, the Imprisoning War, and Tears of the Dragon. Concept 4 is perhaps my favorite: dialogue options. Essentially, using a Bethesda-like dialogue system for most character interactions. This sounds odd for The Legend of Zelda, but consider this. You, as Zelda, are presented with 3 or 4 ways to respond to a particular statement, and the decision or response you make directly affects the main game's overworld. For example, Rauru and Sonya could be discussing where to build a certain establishment, or even what kind of establishment to build. If the player was allowed to choose between 3 or 4 options, they could then make some kind of shop or useful location appear for Link to use in the future. This could even extend to trivial things, such as visual design across the world or differences in present characters' dialogue options. And concept 5 is stealth sequences. Or more likely, stealth sequence. During memory number 9, it's revealed that Zelda had been lurking in the shadows, awaiting Ganondorf's attempted assassination of Sonya. This may be a niche idea, but I think it'd be really fun to play as Zelda as she sneaks throughout the castle, plans with Sonya, and eventually prevents her from being stabbed by Ganondorf's blade. Another QuickTime event opportunity. That's about all I have in regards to ideas, but I'd be interested to hear your ideas in the comments below if you feel so inclined to share them. Tears of the Kingdom is a masterpiece of a game, but every game can be improved, so I hope this video can inspire you to consider how you would improve some of your favorite games. In closing, I'd like to thank you all for the support on my most recent Tears of the Kingdom video. I appreciate you all so very much. Make sure to check out my Patreon if you're interested in supporting. I post regular updates and behind-the-scenes content, and patrons get to have their name appear during the video's end card. I hope you're all well.